Good morning, everyone. How you're doing at home? I hope you all are fine. Washing your hands regularly. You all are taking proper care of the hygiene. You are staying at home. You're not moving out. I hope you all are following the government orders because all of you know that how difficult this time is, and all of you must stay at home. Today we are starting with class 12, chapter 1, reproduction in organisms. Reproduction is a biological process by which an organism produces another organism similar to itself. Now, you have studied about reproduction in your class 10 also. You already know how living organisms reproduce, what is the role of mitosis, meiosis in the living organisms. So, today, the new concept that we are talking about in class 12 will related to further more topics related to reproduction. So, in general, when we talk about reproduction, let's start with lifespan first. What is lifespan? Lifespan is the period from the birth to natural death of an organism. So, the period from birth to the natural death of an organism represents its lifespan. Lifespan of organism may vary from species to species. Okay, it vary from species to species. It is not same for all organisms. From species to species, it varies. And death of every organism is certain. Death of every organism is certain. Nobody is here forever. So living organisms, they are born, okay, they live, they grow, they reproduce, and finally they die. So lifespan of different organisms is different. Like we talk about a banyan tree. A banyan tree may live for 200 years. We talk about tortoise for 100 to 150 years. Parrot 140 years. Man 100 years. A crocodile maybe 60 years. A crow may live for 15 years. Talk about wheat plant, maybe 6 months. A butterfly may live for 1 to 2 weeks. A mayfly may live for 1 day. Okay, so different organisms, they have different lifespans, so they are not same. They live differently for different number of years they are living. Then when we talk about in general about reproduction, the definition of reproduction, you already know, it's a biological process by which an organism produces another organism, which is also called as offspring. So what is offspring? It is another organism which is produced, which is similar to itself. So what is the functions or importance of reproduction? Reproduction is necessary for the continuity of species. Every species must reproduce so that their own organisms can be produced on this earth and the continuity of life is maintained. Sexual reproduction is actually responsible for variations which are being produced in populations. You've studied about variations in 10th class also. So, in populations, when the variations are produced and they are inherited in the future generations. Now, these variations help the organisms to evolve. Now, I'll give you an example of this coronavirus. Okay, the new coronavirus, it has evolved. Okay, now it has evolved because it is different. It has new genetic combinations, which has not been seen earlier. So this type of virus has evolved and it's a new species. Students, hope you're doing fine at home, staying at home, taking all precautions. You already know what we are doing these days, how we are saving you must save yourself. Let's continue with the topic. Now, types of reproduction. You all are familiar with this. What are the various types of reproduction? There are two types. You already studied in class 10, asexual and sexual reproduction. Now, differences. Let's talk about the differences of asexual and sexual reproduction. Now, asexual reproduction, it does not involve the formation or fusion of gametes. So, no fusion or formation of gametes. Whereas in the sexual reproduction involves formation and fusion of gametes. The offsprings produced by asexual reproduction, they are genetically similar. They are identical to their parents and they are also referred to as clones. Whereas in the sexual reproduction, we know that the offsprings, they are not identical to the parents. They are not identical to the parents. And they are not called as clones, but it also leads to variations in the populations. Okay, it leads to variations in the populations. Now, asexual reproduction is a simple and fast process, whereas sexual reproduction is an elaborate, complex, and slow process. We have started about mitosis, okay, where the number of chromosomes remains the same from parent cell to the next cells. So in asexual reproduction, it involves mitosis. Whereas in the sexual reproduction, where the number of chromosomes is reduced to half, and that type of cell division is known as meiosis. So meiosis is generally involved in the sexual reproduction. Now, this is uniparental. Asexual reproduction is uniparental, that is, single parent is involved, whereas sexual reproduction is biparental, where two parents need to participate. Now, asexual reproduction doesn't play an important role in the evolution process, whereas it plays a vital role. It plays a vital role in the evolution process. Various new species, they evolve due to new genetic combinations, and mankind is still having challenges to face all these new species which are harmful. Now, in asexual reproduction, it is common among single celled organisms and in plants and animals with relatively very simple organization, whereas sexual reproduction is common in higher animals and complex organisms. Now, these are the basics regarding types of reproduction. Which is asexual and sexual. We'll be going in detail about asexual reproduction as well as sexual reproduction. Let's talk about asexual reproduction first. We know that asexual reproduction is uniparental, with or without gamete formation. The offsprings, they are exact copies of the parents, so that is why we use the word clones for that. And mitosis is essential for this mode of asexual reproduction. Now, when we talk about the types of asexual reproduction, now what are the various types? Now we'll be discussing about fission. Some of these you have already studied in your 10th class, so you all can brush up your knowledge regarding that. So fission, fragmentation, budding, regeneration, spore formation, and vegetative propagation. So we'll be taking all of them in detail with examples in the later half. Let's talk about fission first. We know that splitting of the parental cell into two or more daughter cells, that is called as fission. Fission is further of two types. One is binary and another is multiple fission. Now, in binary fission, we already know that the splitting of the parental cell into two daughter cells, and each of which rapidly grows into an adult, is called as binary fission. It occurs in single celled animals like bacteria, protozoa, amoeba, paramecium, they all are protozoans. And it can be simple or irregular, it can be longitudinal, oblique, or transverse, depending on the plane of division. So, depending on the plane of divisions, we classify them into various types of binary fission, like it can be longitudinal, it can be oblique or transverse depending upon the plane of division. Whereas in the multiple fission, we find that the splitting of the parental cell into numerous daughter cells, and each of which grows into an adult, and that is called as multiple fission. The common example you all know is about Plasmodium. Now, in Plasmodium, what happens is the nucleus. Okay, many daughter cells they are produced by multiple fission, and these daughter cells are released from the parental cell. Okay, we'll be continuing with the other parts: fragmentation, budding, regeneration, spore formation, and vegetative propagation in the next lecture. Thank you for now. Hello, students. How are you doing? I'm glad that some of you have sent me flipped learning queries, and I'm happy to answer all of your questions. Now, the first question which came is what is the significance of reproduction? Although I've answered it in the first video, if you'll go and see it again, the significance of reproduction is referred to that reproduction is necessary for the continuity of life. Continuity of life, reproduction is necessary. Then we also talk about, we have talked about already about variations. So variations also results because of the reproduction, that is sexual reproduction, and these variations further inherited in the species for the future generations. In the future generations, these variations they do occur. So that is the significance of reproduction, which is the answer number one. Now we next is answer number two, that is differentiate sexual and asexual reproduction. Although I have already touched this topic in the previous video, but I'll briefly go through all the points again. In asexual reproduction, we talk about there is no formation or fusion of gametes. Okay, gametes they are not formed, or there's no fusion of gametes, whereas in the sexual reproduction the formation and fusion of gametes takes place. Then we have also talked about already about asexually reproducing organisms. They are genetically similar, though, so they are referred to as clones, whereas sexually reproducing organisms they are not referred to as clones. Rather, they produce variations in the successive generations. Then asexually reproduce process that is simple and fast, whereas sexual reproduction is more elaborate, complex, and slow process. Asexual reproduction involves mitosis, whereas sexual reproduction involves meiosis. Uniparental organisms in asexual reproduction, whereas sexually reproducing organisms they are biparental. Asexual reproduction generally in single celled organisms and very simple plants and animals, whereas sexual reproduction takes place in the higher organisms and complex organisms. Asexual reproduction is generally not play much role in the evolution, whereas sexual reproduction involves plays a major role in the evolution process. Then third question was examples of vegetative propagules. What are the examples of vegetative propagules? Now, what are vegetative propagules? These are actually the vegetative parts of the plants, like roots, stems, etc., which gives rise to the whole new plant. This will be, we are going to touch this topic in the vegetative propagation, but although as you have asked this question, so I'm answering it. Bulbils in agave plant, bulbs in onion and garlic, then potato tubers, which are also called as eye. Sometimes they are in potato. So these are all the examples of the vegetative propagules in plants. Rhizome is there in ginger. More we'll discuss when we'll take up the topic vegetative propagation. Now the fourth question was the juvenile phase of a plant. Now the juvenile phase in a plant again is the vegetative phase. Vegetative phase in the plant, that is called as the juvenile phase in the plant. Now plants which are not capable of flowering, the plants, they started by a seed and then they enter into the juvenile phase. From the seed they enter into the juvenile phase, and later on till they attain maturity, okay, then only the flowers, they are capable of flowering. So juvenile phase is the initial stage in the development of the plant. Now the fifth and the last question was estrus and menstrual cycle. This topic will be studying later on when I'll take up the topic of the sexual reproduction. Now in the estrus cycle, it involves generally the uterine bleeding. Okay, uterine bleeding occurs in the estrus cycle, whereas in the menstrual cycle it ends with the uterine bleeding. Now in estrus cycle, it is common, it is generally continuous until death. Until death, estrus cycle continues, whereas menstrual cycle, it ends with menopause. Menstrual cycle ends with menopause. Estrual cycle are the actually the cyclic changes that occurs in the non-primates, generally sheep, cow, etc. Whereas menstrual cycle, it occurs in the primates, apes, man, etc. So thank you for sending me the queries. I hope it is clear now. More clarification will be done when we'll take up all these topics in detail. Students, how are you doing? When the going gets tough, the tough gets going. I hope you are at home. You're fighting this tough time. Let's continue with the chapter. Chapter 1 we have started with reproduction in organisms. 2 videos I have already sent. The third one, I was very happy to see that some of you have sent me the flip learning questions. I hope your queries are clear by now. Now chapter 1 reproduction in organisms we have started already. The living organisms, they do reproduce and they produce their own kind. We have discussed about lifespan. Now in continuation with that, I'll explain a few more terms related to the lifespan. We know that duration between the birth and death is called as the lifespan, which may be a few minutes to few hours or sometimes 1,000 years in different organisms. Plants generally have greater lifespan as compared to the animals. So lifespan of an individual generally includes 4 stages. Now first is juvenility, second is maturity, third is aging and senescence, and finally death. Now the early period of the lifespan, from the time of birth up to the stage when an organism develops the capacity to reproduce, that is called as juvenility, and juvenility is followed by maturity. Now maturity, during which an organisms reproduce. Gradually the body of the organism start deteriorating, and this process is called as aging. Aging terminates into senescence. Now senescence, when the deteriorating changes becomes irreversible, and finally the senescence leads to death of an organism. Death causes the reduction in the number of individuals in a population. Thus reproduction is not only production of the new copies like itself, but it is a means of survival of the organisms in the species. So the life comes from life. So we have discussed about the definition of reproduction already. We have discussed asexual and sexual reproduction and their differences. In continuation with that, we have discussed about asexual reproduction in the previous lecture. Asexual reproduction is a kind of reproduction involving only one parent, and there is no meiosis, gamete production, fertilization, nuclear fusion, transfer of gametes, genetic material between the two individuals, and parthenogenesis. All these things, they doesn't occur in the asexual reproduction. In the type of reproduction, we have discussed a few points in the last lecture. In continuation with that, we'll continue with the binary fission today. Now, first we'll talk about binary fission in bacteria. Now, the cytoplasm and the nucleoid divide equally into two without mitosis. Okay, without mitosis. This is also called as amitosis. During the division of the nucleoid, the DNA replicates while attached to the structure called mesosome. And at the time the cell wall and the plasma membrane starts growing transversely inwards in the middle. Okay, like here we'll talk about, like this is the cell wall and this is the nucleoid which contains DNA. This is the cell wall. So when it divides, so it divides like this. The nuclear material divides first, okay, and later on a furrow develops and the cytoplasm divides, and finally they separates the parent cell into two nearly equal daughter cells, each having a nuclear body. Now, under favorable conditions, the process of binary fission completes in about 20 to 30 minutes. Thus, a large number of bacterial cells may be produced in 24 hours. Second, we talk about binary fission in protozoa, protozoans. The replicated chromosomes, they are actually by mitosis. Here the mitosis is the process where the nucleus divides by furrowing, then the cytoplasm gradually divides. Now they are also of various types. One is irregular. In the irregular binary fission that occurs in amoeba, where the plane of division is at right angles. Plane of the division is at right angles, like this, the amoeba. Okay, it divides like this. Okay, and finally it divides into two equal halves. Second is longitudinal binary fission. It occurs like in euglena, where the cytoplasm splits lengthwise. Okay, euglena, where the cytoplasm splits lengthwise and forming the two similar organisms. Transverse. In the transverse binary fission, it occurs in paramecium. Cytoplasm divides transversely. Transversely, the cytoplasm divides. Okay, so binary fission also occurs in planaria worm. It also occurs in planaria. Now, in planaria, what happens is when the planaria worm, okay, it attaches with the substratum and the organism pulls itself forward. So it breaks up into two halves and the two new worms, they can be produced. So reproductive units in these, okay, they are immortal. The organisms that undergo binary fission, they also called as immortal. Multiple fission we have talked about in brief in the previous lecture. In the multiple fission in Plasmodium, when we talk about, here it's a malarial parasite. We know that fission takes place, and it takes place in various ways in the Plasmodium. It also occurs in the encysted zygote. When it is in the zygote stage, so multiple fission occurs inside it, and the daughter individuals, they are formed. It also takes place in the active adult. When the organism is in the active adult stage, then also multiple fission takes place in that. Multiple fission also occurs in amoeba, and in amoeba the products of multiple fission, they are surrounded by the coats or the cyst walls before the release from the parent, and the multiple fission here is called as sporulation. and the encysted products are called as spores. The spores remain inactive during unfavorable conditions like temperature conditions, and on the return of the favorable conditions they again becomes active amoeba. Sporulation not only brings about multiplication but also enable the organisms to survive. So in survival also it is important, and for reproduction also it is important. It also helps in their dispersal to new localities. So dispersal to new areas they also. Next is budding. When we talk of budding, the formation of the daughter cells through a bud formation arising from the parent body, that is called as budding. Now budding we talked about in yeast also in the 10th class. Yeast is a unicellular fungus. It reproduces asexually by the formation of spores, and during the process of budding in yeast the parent cell develops a small protuberance which grows in size, and the parent nucleus divides to form the new individual. Now we make a small diagram for that. This is the nucleus, this is the vacuole, okay, and a small protuberance that develops on the parent body. Okay, the nucleus is dividing, okay, and this is the developing bud. Nucleus, this is the cell cytoplasm, okay, and this protuberance later on develops into a bud, and this bud detaches from the mother cell and gives rise to the new organs. Now budding also happens in hydra. We have studied already in 10th class. In hydra the bud arises on the parent body, and this growing bud, when it becomes fully grown, it gives rise to a new organism or a young hydra. Spores. Spores are, they germinate and produce the new individual. There are several kind of spores they are found. There are zoospores. Now zoospores are special motile structures. They are special motile structures. These are flagellated. They are flagellated spores, and they are produced inside zoosporangia. They are usually without cell wall. Flagella helps them to swim into the different habitats, and we find it in certain lower fungi. We find zoospores are the types of spores that are being produced. Sporangio spores. These are also non-motile spores which are produced inside the sporangia, and sometimes they are also called as endospores. They usually disperse by wind in Rhizopus, Mucor. Okay, we find these kinds of spores. Chlamydospores, Oidea, Conidia. These are some other kinds of spores which are produced in various organisms. Chlamydospores, uh, they are capable of withstanding long unfavorable conditions. Oidea, uh, Oidea are usually formed under conditions of excess water, sugar, salts, etc. They germinate, survive the unfavorable conditions. Conidia also non-motile spores. They are produced in chains and constrictions. They form conidiophores. They germinate directly and give rise to the new organisms. Now vegetative propagation. Vegetative propagation, when we talk about the lower plants reproduce vegetatively through budding, fission, fragmentation, resting spores, gamete, etc. They are further divided into two types. Vegetative propagation is divided into two types: natural and artificial. Now, in natural methods of vegetative propagation, roots, modified tuberous roots of sweet potato, dahlia, etc., they propagate vegetatively when planted in the soil, and these sometimes grow into the adventitious roots also and gives rise to the new plants. So adventitious buds, they grow into new shoots in the tuberous roots of, we can talk about sweet potato. The young shoots arising from the reproductive roots in Dalbergia, old roots tubers in Dahlia. Then underground stems. Underground modified stems in rhizomes, corms, bulbs, tubers, ठीक है, give rise to the new plants. Then suckers, mint, chrysanthemum, they arise from the base of the shoot, give rise to the aerial shoots. Now in continuation with this, like roots हो गया, underground stem हो गया. Third is regarding, now in these underground stems, when we talk about, these are suckers, rhizomes, corms, bulbs, tubers. Now suckers of mint and chrysanthemum we have talked about earlier. There are certain creeping stems also. These can be runners, stolons, offsets. Runners are creeping modified stems. They are produced from the adventitious roots or node, and each node is giving rise to the aerial shoot, like in grass. Runners we talk about in grass. Then stolons are actually, they cross small obstacles and develop new plantlets. Strawberry. Offsets, they are runners which develop the tuft of leaves at an apex in water lettuce. Okay, these are the examples. Aerial stems, like in cactus, new plants develop vegetative propagation in opuntia. Leaves, some plants develop adventitious buds on their leaves which detail and form the new plants, like in bryophyllum. Then bulbils, these are flesh buds produced in the axil of the leaves, in the axillary buds, and they grow to form the new plant, like in oxalis, allium cepa, that is allium sativum, which is actually onion. Then lily, pineapple, agave, in these plants it will. Then in artificial methods of vegetative propagation, there are several which are man-made methods. इनमें cuttings आ जाते हैं. Cuttings, a small piece of any plant that is called stem, root or leaf, and they are capable of propagating new plant. Rose is the common example. Bougainvillea. Layering. In this method, roots are artificially induced on the stem branches before they are detached from the parent plant for propagation. Their common types of layering are the mound layering and air layering. In mound layering, it is most common method of propagating herbaceous plants. Lower branch of the stem is bent down and then defoliated, and injury or made in the defoliated portion and the injured part, the light layer of moist soil in such a way that growing tip of the branches remain above the soil surface, and after a few days it develops the adventitious roots. In air layering, this method is commonly employed in the case of shrubs and trees which do not possess branches near the ground. In this method, a ring of bark is removed, the slit, and upward angle is made based on the aerial branch, and then it is covered with the moist moss or grafting clay, cow dung, cotton, water, then wrap the polythene sheet, and then it is also called as guti. Grafting. It is the most common method of vegetative propagation described by in the ancient gardeners also for the horticulture. In this method, the part of the two plants are joined in such a way that they grow to form a new plant. Grafting is done between two closely related species. The rooted supporting portion is called as the stalk and scion. These are the two parts. Now, scion and stalk are the two parts. The root stalk belongs to any wild variety which may be resistant to diseases, possess efficient root system, absorption of water and minerals. And scion is derived from the plant possessing better characters. For example, a scion of the sherry mango is grafted on the stalk of a desi mango. Similarly, scion of the high quality roses, they are grafted on the wild roses stalks and so on. So during grafting, a cut end of the stalk and the joint, they are joined with a layer of the wax, clay, etc., supported by water, and then they form as a composite plant. Grafting is of various types. Okay, it can be tongue grafting, wedge grafting, crown grafting, side grafting, bud grafting also. Now, micro propagation. It's also called as tissue culture. Now, micropropagation is a method of propagation of the plants with the culturing of the cells, tissues, and organs. Initially, the culturing of the cells or tissues formed an undifferentiated mass of cells, which is called as callus, which later differentiates and produce a large number of plantlets. And these plantlets are therefore transferred to separate pots or nursery beds to obtain a large number of plants. Now, tissue culture technique is useful in obtaining virus-free plants, disease-free plants. Okay, tissue culture is used in a technique is used in obtaining virus-free, disease-free plants for commercial propagation also of orchids, carnations, gladiolus, chrysanthemums, and other ornamental plants, and this method for a quick multiplication of the plants. Now, importance of vegetative propagation is the last topic for today. Importance of vegetative propagation. Now, vegetative propagation in those plants which have lost their capacity to produce seeds or no seeds are produced in the plants, like banana, seedless grapes, oranges, rose, jasmine, figs, pineapple, tulips, dahlia, carnation, and plants which produce very small quantity of viable seeds. Viable seeds, okay, which are actually capable of giving rise to the new plants, and plants which have poor seed viability or prolonged seed dormancy. And the greatest advantage of vegetative propagation is that original plant can be retained and multiplied definitely without any change or variations. Variations actually, if the plant undergoes meiosis and effects of various treatments, okay, that are also conveniently used in these plants. It also helps in producing disease-free plants. So these are some of the topics we have taken today for the asexual reproduction in lower organisms generally. We'll be continuing with the same topic, as these videos they take a lot of time to upload, so that is why I'm stopping it here. More topics will be continuing in the next lecture. Thank you for today. In continuation with the previous lecture, these three topics they are left. In fragmentation, what is fragmentation? Fragmentation is also a mode of asexual reproduction in which the parental body breaks into two or more fragments, and each fragment is growing into the new individual, like in Spirogyra. So in the Spirogyra, the filament breaks into two parts, and these two parts are capable of giving rise to the whole new organism. Next is regeneration. Now, regeneration is a process it is again a mode of asexual reproduction in which the missing part of the organism is repaired by proliferation of cells. It is also in planaria worm. Planaria worm breaks up into two or more fragments and parts, and these parts are capable of giving rise to the whole new organism. Now, this property is also found in the higher organisms, in the lizards, salamanders, where they can regenerate their body parts. Gemmules. Now, gemmules, these are also internal asexual reproductive units. These are also called as buds. These are called as gemmules. They are especially found in sponges. These develop within the parental body. And then they are released during germination, and they are capable of giving rise to the whole new organism. These are the spicules which are present in the walls of the sponges. So this is also a gemmule in sponges. So with this we complete the asexual reproduction in organisms in general. In the next time we'll be starting with the sexual reproduction. Thank you for today. Today is 27. Good morning everyone. We'll start today's lecture with this thought that be strong now because things will get better. It might be stormy now, but it can't rain forever. Today we are starting with the topic sexual reproduction. Now, sexual reproduction is all about formation of gametes. The fusion of gametes will give rise to zygote, and offsprings which are produced, they are not identical. They're not identical to each other or to their parents. Now, juvenile phase is also called as the vegetative phase in plants. And after juvenile phase, the maturity or the flowering phase, it occurs, and it varies in different types of plants. Now, reproductive phase, when the reproductive phase starts, then only the flowering starts with the flowering. So reproductive phase, it varies from individual to individual, from different plants. Here we are talking about plants. When we talk of marigold plants, they have a flowering within 8 weeks. Rice, they have spikelets. Their flowers are called as spikelets, and they have 1 to 2.5 hours daily their flowering occurs. Wheat, 3 to 5 days after full emergence, 3 to 5 days flowering. In coconut, 7 to 10 years. And in mango plant, find that 100 to 150 days flowering occurs. So flowering varies in different organisms. Now there are plants where the flowering occurs more than once, and there is an interflowering period. And what is this period called as in such plants? So interflowering period, that is the time between the two flowering phases, is also called as the juvenile phase in those plants, because the maturity is yet to happen. Now, on the basis of these flowering, we divide the plants into 3 categories: annual, biennials, and perennials. Now, annuals, which flower once in their lifetime, biennials twice a year, and perennial more than once a year. Bamboo is an example, which flower in 50 to 100 years. Then there's one example which is mentioned in your NCERT book, that is Strobilanthes kunthiana. It also flowers in 12 years. It is found mostly in Kerala, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. Now, in the old age, what happens is the slowing of metabolism. The slowing of metabolism occur where the hormones or the environmental factors, they play the role. Now, what are the events in the sexual reproduction? Now, all the events in the sexual reproduction, it involves fertilization, zygote formation, and embryogenesis. Now, on the basis of these events, we classify all the events in the sexual reproduction into three types: pre-fertilization, fertilization, and post-fertilization events. Today, we'll take up pre-fertilization events. Now, pre-fertilization are further divided into two types: gametogenesis and gamete transfer. Now, in gametogenesis, there are organisms which are homothallic. Homothallic means same type of gametes they are produced, so these gametes are also called as isogametes. There are heterothallic organisms where anisogametes are produced, the gametes which are not similar. Now, these gametes can be antherozoids or sperms in the males, whereas egg or ovum in the females. Now, the sexuality of different plants varies. Now, some of the plants, they are monoecious. Monoecious means where both the or reproductive organs are present in the same plants. It can be seen in cucurbits, coconuts, etc. Whereas dioecious are the plants which are actually unisexual, like in papaya or in date palm. There are plants which are staminate, where only stamen dominates, which have only stamen, and pistillate, where only pistil or the female reproductive part is present. Now, in animals, when we talk about sexuality, they are bisexual as well as unisexual. And the bisexual plants, they are also called as hermaphrodite. Okay, we talk of earthworm, sponges, tapeworm, leech. They all are bisexual, whereas in unisexual, common example is of cockroach. Now, haploid is the term that is used for the single set of chromosomes, and diploid is the term which is used for the double the set of chromosomes. You already know this. Myocytes. Myocyte is the term that is used for the gamete mother cell, that is from where the gametes they are being originated, and it involves meiosis. Now, after meiosis, half the number of chromosomes that is reduced, and such type of cells are called as gametes. Now, in the next topic, we'll be taking gamete transfer. Okay, till here we have completed gametogenesis. So we have made short videos so that they can reach you early, because yesterday it took so much of time to send you the videos, as well in one video we cannot complete all the topics, so short videos I've decided to send you. Hope you're getting it in time. Today we'll be completing the last three pages of chapter 1. You'll be able to complete your chapter 1 today, and after that I'll be giving you the assignment. So I've written already, just to save the time, what we are going to cover up in this video. Next topic is gamete transfer. Now, once the male and female gametes are formed inside the reproductive organs, they are allowed to come in contact with each other for the fusion of a fertilization. And in a majority of the organisms, the male gametes they are motile, and the female gametes they are non-motile. In case of the lower plants, generally algae and bryophytes or pteridophytes, the male gametes are small and flagellated, and they are produced inside the antheridia. Antheridia are the reproductive organs, and at maturity, the flagellated male gametes, they are flagellated, So flagellated male gametes, they are called as sperms or enterozoids, and they are liberated from the enteridia in the water, and they are transferred to the female gametes. They are transferred to the female gametes through and so that they can reach the archegonia. So archegonia are the female reproductive organs. Now, during such a gamete transfer, a large number of these male gametes are not able to reach the female gamete, because many of them, they are destroyed during the transport. And to compensate this loss, the male gametes during transport, they are produced in several thousand times as compared to the female gamete. In higher plants, like in the seed plants, the male gametes are non-flagellated. They are non-flagellated. They do not have flagella. They are produced inside the pollen grains, germinated pollen grains, the microspores or pollen grains. They are produced inside the microsporangia or pollen sacs, and at maturity they are liberated into the air and they are transferred to the stigma or the corpel. You can remember what you have studied in 10th class regarding this, how the fertilization takes place in the flowers also. Pollination is the release of pollen grains once they are matured, and transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma is called as pollination. Pollination is further of two types: self pollination and cross pollination. Self pollination is mainly in the bisexual flowers, where the pollens, they have to get transferred in the same flower, whereas cross pollination, you know already, the pollen grains, they have to reach the different flower of the different plant. Animals, the male gametes, they are transferred to the female gametes for the fusion, and this process is called as fertilization. Fertilization is further of two types: external and internal fertilization. Now, an external fertilization that occurs outside the body of an organism, especially in the aquatic animals, and occurs where the gametes, they are released in water, whereas the internal fertilization occurs inside the body of the organism. That is called as internal fertilization, and there the zygote develops inside the body of the female in case of the higher organisms, especially. Now, syngamy is the fusion of the gametes. Male and female gametes, they fuse and then they form the zygote, and it involves close association of zygotes and all the acts that in the formation of the zygote, including the fusion of the nuclei. So fertilization includes all these essential events that ultimately leads to syngamy. So this is the difference in syngamy and fertilization. Syngamy is simply fusion of gametes, and fertilization is all the events that are associated which leads to syngamy. Now, fertilization further of different types: self fertilization. It is also called as endogamy. Here, the fusion of the gametes, it takes place in the same parent. So it is uniparental. It is not common. It is found in tapeworm and mostly the bisexual or the hermaphrodite animals it occurs. Then cross fertilization, which is also called as exogamy. Here, the fusion of two gametes formed by two different parents. So it is biparental, and it is very common. It is found in frog, rabbits, man. Okay. Then syngamy is also of two kinds on the basis of the structure of the fusing gametes. It can be isogamy or anisogamy. Isogamy is the fusion of the similar, morphologically similar gametes, that is called, which are called as isogametes. So that is isogamy. But their behavioral differences might be there. The gametes produced by one parent, they do not fuse with each other. So gametes of two different parents, just similar. And anisogamy or heterogamy is the fusion of the gametes which are different in form, structure, size, behavior, as in frog and in humans. Such gametes are known as anisogametes or heterogametes. They are also called as heterogametes, and their fusion is termed as anisogamy or heterogamy. Now, parthenogenesis. It is a mode of sexual reproduction in which an egg develops from a complete offspring without fertilization. It is monoparental. It is found in many ways in non-vertebrates such as rotifers, aphids, bees, crustaceans. It also occurs in few vertebrates. So it is of different types, natural as well as artificial events. All the events that occur during sexual reproduction after the fusion of gametes are called as post-fertilization events. Here, the zygote, the fusion of two haploid gametes, results in the formation of a diploid zygote. So zygote is always diploid, and zygote is the first cell of the diploid organisms, including human beings. There are certain organisms where the zygote also undergoes meiosis. So, a zygote generally divides by meiosis to form haploid spores, or divides by mitosis to develop the whole new diploid body, depending on the life cycle of different organism. Embryogenesis, the process of development of the embryo from the zygote, that is embryogenesis. In animals, the development of the zygote takes place either inside the body or uh, either inside the body of the female parent or outside, and on that basis animals are grouped into two categories: oviparous animals and viviparous. In oviparous, the animals, they lay fertilized or unfertilized eggs, for example in reptiles and birds. Okay, they lay fertilized eggs in a safe place in the environment, and the eggs are covered by a hard shell also, and after passing the incubation period the young ones hatch out from the eggs. Whereas viviparous animals, these animals, they give birth to young ones, and the zygote develop into young ones inside the body of the female. In flowering plants, especially the angiosperms, the zygote develops into an embryo inside the embryo sac, and after fertilization the different parts of the flowers like the sepals, petals, they fall off. In some cases the sepals, they remain persistent, and the ovules, they are transformed into the seeds, and the ovary becomes the fruit. And in a few kinds of the fruit habit is of great advantage to the plant. It only provides nourishment and protection to the developing seeds, but it also helps in seed dispersal. So seeds are dispersed by various mechanisms to germinate and form the new plant.